Hey, beautiful. Welcome back to another episode of the I Am Changing podcast. My name's Humphries. I'm your host. I feel like an air stewardess whenever I say this. This episode, we're talking about the cost of living in survival. Here's some of the statements that I hear in clinic. I'm exhausted. I don't feel like myself anymore. Something has to change. And these are some of the most common things that I've been hearing in my clinic all year, that like the theme, and it doesn't matter the age. This is what I'm hearing. And interestingly, very few people arrive saying they have nervous system dysregulation. They don't tell me their stress response has become overprotective. They don't tell me their brain has been living in survival for years, and they don't tell me they've turned into a meerkat and they're looking through their meerkat goggles and wondering when they open the fridge door will the mountain lion claw out at them. Instead, they describe to me what their life feels like. They tell me they wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep. They tell me their memory has become unreliable. They can't concentrate. They lose their words halfway through a sentence. Welcome to fucking menopause. They find themselves becoming emotional over things that never used to bother them. Their patience perhaps has become shorter. Their confidence has disappeared. Their capacity to poo on a regular basis has changed. And they quietly wonder whether they're simply not coping as well as everyone else. And many people convince themselves that they're failing at life. Others think they're lazy. Some women blame menopause. Parents blame themselves. Professionals tell themselves they just need a holiday. And rather than jumping to conclusions, I simply become curious, because exhaustion is really about just being tired. Your nervous system has one job to do. The nervous system isn't trying to make you productive. It isn't trying to make you happy. Its first priority is something much more simpler. Your nervous system is trying to keep you alive. And every second of every day, your brain is asking one question: am I safe? Sit with that. Am I safe? Sounds ridiculously easy, doesn't it? If the answer is yes, your body can invest in energy to heal, to recuperate, digest, poop, be creative, learn, connect, have joy. But if the answer feels uncertain, even if you're not consciously aware of it, your body will know. Your nervous system will begin preparing to protect you. It's not a choice. Your survival reaction is your biology. Many people assume survival mode only happens after a major trauma. In reality, survival mode can develop after months or years of lots of small stresses that quietly accumulate. You know what I'm talking about when we're juggling all of the plates in the air, caring for aged parents, working in a demanding job, having financial pressure, and with this government, who's not experiencing that right now? Parenting children, parenting neurodiverse children, relationship conflict, poor sleep, illness, grief, menopause, never feeling like you can switch off. On their own, each of these challenges can be manageable, but together they create a constant signal to the brain that life requires ongoing vigilance and surveillance. And survival mode wears many disguises. People often imagine that survival mode looks dramatic. And you know what? Sometimes it does. When you see a little child who's neurospicy and they've got volcano head going on, and you can see the look, the nonverbal gestures where they take a breath and hold it because otherwise they're going to explode. But more often, survival looks really ordinary. You're the person everyone relies on. Maybe you're the one who never stops thinking. Maybe you solve everyone else's problems before your own. Maybe you stay busy because being still feels uncomfortable. Maybe you say yes when you desperately want to say no. Maybe you're that person who pushes through another week to tell yourself, I'll rest later. but later never comes. I've worked with clients over the last 20 something years who appear highly successful from the outside. They have their careers, they have families, they have businesses, they have the full social calendars, yet inside they feel disconnected from themselves. They've become experts at functioning whilst quietly running on empty. Living in survival mode doesn't always stop you achieving. Sometimes it stops you enjoying what you have achieved. Your body is not fighting you. One of the greatest shifts that I see in clients happens when they stop believing their body has turned against them. Your body is constantly communicating with you. Poor sleep, brain fog, digestive changes, headaches, muscle tension, migrating aches and pains, fatigue, feeling wired or tired, difficulty relaxing. These aren't always isolated problems. They're sometimes the body's way of saying, hey, I need you to pay attention. Don't override this signal. This doesn't mean that every symptom is caused by stress. Sometimes physical symptoms deserve appropriate medical assessment when needed. Correct. But once a serious medical condition has been investigated and eliminated, it's worth asking a different question. What has my nervous system been trying to manage? And this is where, if you work with me in clinic, we widen the lens. We move from meerkat mode and those stress goggles and just focal vision, and we turn on your peripheral view and we gain a 180 view of what's happening in your life. I dig deep. I'm interested in your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your behaviors, your relationships, your hormones, your sleep, your nutrition, your values, beliefs. We talk about your life experiences and your body's response to all of it, because people are beautifully and wonderfully complex. We all respond or react in our own unique way. And if you only focus on one symptom, you can miss the bigger story. And why pushing through eventually stops working, because many of us were taught that resilience means being able to push through. And you know what? Sometimes that's necessary. You've got to get out of bed and put on your pants and go to work. But living that way indefinitely comes at a cost. Stress hormones are incredibly helpful during genuine emergencies. They help us to respond. They help us to protect ourselves. They also help us respond to the alarm first thing in the morning and get out of bed and take action. But here's the thing, those stress chemicals were not designed to stay switched on all day, every day. And when they do, your brain will make different decisions. It will react. The memory will become less reliable. Your concentration, you'll have to work really hard. You'll use a lot of physical energy just to get the mental cogs turning. Your patience will shorten. Small problems might begin to feel much bigger than what they really are. You might even start to misperceive what you're seeing in front of you, the reality. Your body will start conserving energy for protection instead of growth or immunity or recuperation. And I think this is why so many people tell me, I don't recognize myself anymore. It's not because they've become weak. It's because their nervous system has been working overtime for too long. Rest is not the same as collapse. One of the saddest things that I hear is, I finally rested because I got sick. I went on holidays. I was sick for the first half of the holiday, where the body just decompressed and reset everything. Guess what? Your body would much rather you choose rest rather than to force you to rest. There's an important difference between rest and collapse. Collapse happens when your body has exhausted all of its resources, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically. Rest is something that you intentionally build into your life before reaching that point. It's not lazy. It's not selfish. Rest isn't something you earn after you've looked after everyone else. It's one of the ways your nervous system restores its capacity to cope. And so I'm hearing you say, but what can I do today? Guess what? You don't need to change anything in your life, not one thing. You don't need to change your entire life by tomorrow. You could implement small, consistent actions to create bigger shifts. You could become curious about the signals from your body instead of criticizing them, ignoring them, overriding them, pushing them down. Perhaps today, if nothing else, notice when you've ground yourself in and you're pushing through. Take a slow breath. Even use a reset breath like this. 2 in, 1 out, as if through a straw. Maybe you need to plant both feet on the floor, sit up straight, place your hand on your heart, and just breathe deeply and allow your awareness to feel your feet pushing into the floor. Feel the weight of your hips, buttocks, and thighs on the chair. Feel the weight of your head on your shoulders above your buttocks, hips, and thighs, above your feet, feeling now grounded, centered, focused. Maybe you need to eat regularly to support your physical energy. Maybe you need to walk outside without your phone. Perhaps you need to spend a few minutes noticing what feeling safe instead of constantly scanning for what might go wrong. Wonder what that feels like. Talk to someone if you've been carrying everything on your own. They're not quick fixes, but they're small, tiny little circuit breakers. They're small interventions that gently remind your nervous system it doesn't have to stay on high alert every moment of the day. There's hope. One of the most rewarding parts of my work is watching people recognize I'm not broken. They're just exhausted. They're overloaded. They're carrying more than anyone realized, including themselves. When we understand the biology of survival, shame loses its grip. And instead of asking yourself, what's wrong with me? You then create space to ask yourself, what is my nervous system being trying to protect me from? That single question can change everything because it replaces judgment with curiosity. And curiosity opens the door to understanding. And understanding creates choice. And choice is where change begins. If you've been living in survival mode like a meerkat for longer than you can remember, please know this. Your nervous system learnt to protect you, and that means it can also learn to know what safety feels like once more. You don't have to stay trapped in exhaustion, overwhelm, or constant vigilance forever. With the right support, practical strategies, and compassionate understanding of how your mind and your body work together, it is possible to reconnect with that inner self again. Remember, as always, you really can choose to change and bloom from within. Thanks for listening.